All right, we're getting an up-close look at the tunnel shaft in Gaza, where Israeli troops last week recovered the bodies of 6 hostages taken on October 7th, hostages who were killed in captivity just days before the IDF got to them. The Israeli military released this video, and the images speak for themselves. Below paintings on the wall of Mickey Mouse and Snow White and even the word love, you can see a tunnel shaft. Yes, the entrance to the tunnel below Rafah, where 6 murdered hostages were found, is inside a child's bedroom. It's less than a mile from where the Israeli soldiers found another hostage alone and alive last week, an Israeli Arab. They rescued him. American and European officials have long accused Hamas of using human shields in this war. This tunnel under a child's bedroom is just the latest example made public. Since October 7th, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's main stated goal in the war in Gaza is to dismantle Hamas. Israel wants to eliminate Hamas leadership and infrastructure, namely that vast and intricate underground world of tunnels. Hamas uses them to get around undetected, to store weapons, to hide, and to hold hostages. 11 months into the war, Hamas's tunnels are proving valuable to them, hiding the leader, Yahya Sinwar, and by giving the IDF a distinct disadvantage in combat below ground. It all raises questions about if and how the IDF can save those remaining hostages, likely also being held in those tunnels. Moments ago, I spoke with John Spencer, a combat veteran and chair of the urban warfare studies at the Modern War Institute at West Point. He has been inside the tunnels of Gaza. John, right after the October 7th attacks, the IDF estimated the tunnels under Gaza were 250 miles long. They now believe they're actually twice that, 500 miles of tunnels there. How did the IDF underestimate this by so much?
I mean, there are a lot of reasons. Really, the fact that Israel left, and what we've discovered every day since Israel has been pursuing this campaign against Hamas is that what Hamas was doing for the last 15 years was digging a tunnel under every house, every urban area, every border area, 100 miles between Egypt and Gaza. So I think the estimate, Israel wasn't there. So that's really probably one of the #1 reasons, because there are limitations to aerial intelligence and what you can see from the surface.
We're looking at video right now of this latest tunnel video that the IDF seized of the tunnel where the 6 hostages were found executed. And it looks like the tunnel entrance was beneath a child's bedroom. I mean, we can see stuffed animals and cartoon characters painted on the walls. Did people in Gaza know these tunnels were underneath their bedrooms, their schools, next to their hospitals?
Absolutely. There's no way anybody could not know that you have, an entire city underneath you, to include in your own children's bedrooms. That tunnel went over 60 feet underground, and where the hostages were being held in Rafah, where the IDF were told not to go, and then brutally murdered there. But there was also an incentive system there. So the civilians were paid to have those tunnels there. So the whole cancer that is Hamas, that has radicalized these populations since they were children. I mean, there are basically Sesame Street radicalization programs in Gaza that the children watch. So it's not, surprising, but it's very unfortunate that the international community hasn't called that out.
Right. You've been to Gaza 3 times since the October 7th attacks, embedded with the IDF. What did you see?
I saw everything from a multi-million-dollar tunnel that ran over 2 miles up to the border of Israel that could have been used to improve the infrastructure of the people, of the billions of dollars that the international community had sent there. I also saw the IDF like in places like Khan Yunis, where I was standing on top of a tunnel underneath us that they hadn't quite found yet, that they were doing everything known to man and everything any military has done in history to prevent civilian casualties, but that wasn't what the world was saying about it.
If it were not for these tunnels and this network, this Gaza Metro, as it's called, Hamas would have little chance fighting against the IDF, which has a far superior military. Hamas spent $250,000. I mean, that money didn't go to food, didn't go to shelter. It went to reinforcing blast doors at the entrances of tunnels. Hamas also bought night vision goggles and gas detectors, all to help terrorists see in the dark and blunt any IDF raids.
Yeah, there's no way that's not billions of dollars, Elizabeth, that was spent underneath in those tunnels. And you're right. That is what their strategy has been. It has never been to fight the IDF. It has been to hide in their tunnels, which is really interesting that I've been around the world, like in Ukraine, where the civilians seek refuge from the Russian bombardments in the underground. Not a single civilian of the 2 million Gazans are allowed in Hamas's tunnels because they purposely are trying to get civilians killed.
Yeah, they're not offering them shelter, far from it. The IDF found a Hamas handbook that instructs its fighters on how to move in these dark tunnels with one hand on the wall, the other hand on the fighter in front. It says weapons should be set to automatic and fired from the shoulder, so the shots are aimed at the kill zones of the human body, the upper parts of the human body.
Absolutely. And the handbook also said how much they need to rotate the fighters because this is a foreign environment. That can just breathe in the air can really be toxic to individuals not seeing the daylight, the sensory deprivation. So the fact that you have no light or sound, you can get vertigo, lose the sense of time. But this is where for over a year, to include Americans, Hamas has held the hostages in these dark, damp, awful tunnels.
That brings up a good thing, an important point, because I read recently that the Israeli intelligence services who have been trying desperately to find Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, who's hiding in these tunnels, they said he has to come up out of the tunnels every couple of days. Is that why? Because they need fresh air and they get that sense of vertigo because you lose all sense of sort of the world around you if you're underground too long?
You can. I mean, you can also get claustrophobia, and he's got his children. Surprisingly, the only civilians allowed in the tunnels are Yahya Sinwar's family. Absolutely, that could be a reason why he pops up rumors of him wearing women's clothing. I mean, he's a rat running, but he needs daylight. He needs fresh air. He needs, even though some of these tunnels have even air conditioning. I mean, it's a city.
It's worth noting, by the way, that the hostages are being kept in those tunnels. I'm sure they're not given humanitarian breaks outside. We know that the IDF and the U.S. are hunting Sinwar. They're using, ground-penetrating radar brought in by the Americans to look for him deep down in these tunnels. Do you have any doubt they're going to catch him?
No, he's a dead man walking for sure. But it's a matter of when they get him, because it's still, I mean, he's hiding in the humanitarian zones like the number one of the Hamas military, Mohammed Deif, who is right next to the humanitarian zone, putting civilians at risk. So he's hiding amongst a very large population. It'll be difficult, but not impossible. I'm very confident that the IDF will bring him to justice.
Yeah, at some point, and they won't give up, as we know from recent history. John Spencer, great talking to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up for us, could new video of an infamous day in American history put conspiracy theories to rest? We'll take a look at newly uncovered JFK assassination videos next.